Hey Clash is the best settings for higher chances of 3 stars in Clash of Clans, and that's for every single town hall level. No problem, I got you covered. But before we're jumping into the settings and what exactly you need to do, let's take a look at the offers. And as always, if you're thinking about buying any of those offers in the shop or buying the gold pass, for example, make sure to use a credit code of a creator you would like to support. And if you like those videos, make sure to use code iTzu. But now let's get ready. Go on your settings on the bottom right, then on more settings. And now let's take a look at the first setting we have in the attacking category. The first thing is screen shake, which is relevant, okay? The first setting with like dark clouds is not really affecting your attacking, but screen shake actually is a lot. Let's take a look how this feels with screen shake on. You can see already, everything is shaking. You cannot really place anything correctly, right? Like trying to place things precise and in a certain spot is really hard. With your entire screen shaking, with every mortar shot, with every eagle shot, it's not easy to do. What I highly recommend is for sure turning screen shake off. It is a huge game changer. You can use lightnings or any spells, troops, whatever, way better and precise on every single tile, and it's going to make your attacking chances of 3-starring way higher. So, the first setting, make sure that you turn screen shake off. The next one is the automatically hero abilities. Super Saiyans added this with an update, and it is a huge game changer. This is how it was before that change. Your queen is just dying without her ability. It's not fun. Instead, you always had to use the queen ability manually, and this is then how it looks like. Sometimes it was too early, sometimes too late. Not really optimal. But instead, if you turn that on, if you turn the automatically hero abilities on, it can be a huge lifesaver. This means even with high damage, it's really likely that your queen is going to survive. The important word though was likely. It is not a guaranteed thing. You still need to keep track a little bit of your hero and the health of your hero, because otherwise something like this happens. If you do not pay close attention, this means that your queen can still die if there is something which deals just too much damage. So pay close attention, but still, it is way better to have the automatically hero abilities on. Next one, and that's an interesting thing, the deployment bar. The deployment bar is two categories, okay? It's first for tablets and then for mobile devices, because you can change the size, but if you're a tablet user, you can actually turn on the double deployment bar. This is quite a big thing. Why exactly? Let me show it to you, okay? If you're turning this on with like a average size of the icons, you don't really have to scroll anymore. And that is a huge benefit. Yes, you can see less of the screen, but for the normal attacker, it doesn't really matter. You can now place pretty much at the same time an invisibility spell on the far right and an archer on the far left of your scroll bar. This would not be possible without the double deployment bar. This is a huge advantage when going into attacks, and that's why I would highly recommend this double deployment bar. Because if we now take a look at the long bar, at the one single bar, you see, using lightnings, then switching all to the left to play some wizard or something, it's always some delay in between, because, well, you have to change the scroll bar, right? It should be kind of obvious. Now you might wonder, why don't you use that in your videos? I mean, for me as a content creator, I would argue it's a bit of difference, because for me, the value of having more of the screen visible is quite important, because that's for you as a viewer way easier than to watch everything. But for a normal player, you can see it right here, it's way easier to deploy things on the different side of the deployment bar, and makes your life way easier for a tablet user. So turn it on if you want to. The next thing is, well, what happens with the size of the icons? Overall, I can say I would do something in the middle, okay? Something around the average point. And what does it depend on? Well, pretty much on your hand size, I would argue. Which means if you have a huge hand or small fingers, make sure that you're adapting the size of those icons accordingly. The same obviously with the one deployment bar for like mobile users, for example. Which means let's now switch to the mobile devices. Because I feel like for mobile, there's only this one option, right? You have only this one deployment bar. And as I said already, the size depends mainly on the size of your hands and on your fingers. But what you can have an impact on, the question though is, if you really want to have that craziness is if you count all of those icons, you have like around about 11.5 icons on a 4:3 device. If you compare that now to another mobile device which has like 16:9 or something, this is way more icons which you can see now. So if you have a device which is like longer, you have an advantage overall. It's not a setting in the game, but just as a tip overall, if you're crazy enough to buy a device just for Clash of Clans, but who knows. Next one is the sound. Game sound is nice, but mainly distracting, so let's turn it off again. But what about the sound effects? The sound effects, surprisingly enough, are quite important. A lot of people always ask me, iTzu, why do you have the sound effects on? For me, it's kind of annoying to listen to. And I totally understand that, but I feel like it's just part of the game where it's really giving you a lot of information. So let's play an entire attack where you're going to combine all of the settings which we have learned today in one attack. First thing, we can now closely listen to things happening even though we have just placed the archer on the left side. I listened and I heard that red mine popped. We had as well the loons just flying in, and we heard, even more importantly, the clan castle getting lured. All of those small things you can hear, and over time you can learn where those sounds are coming from. If you're starting earlier, which means like town level based, like if you're starting with town level 9, 8, 7, like on the earliest town level, it's going to get easier and easier for you to really identify where is every sound coming from. If you just do this now on town of 15 or town of 14, for example, it's going to get tricky because there's just so many sounds at this point, which is not easy to really listen to. At the same time, though, you should really learn to like identify the important sounds. As I said, if you're playing a blimp, black mine or red mine, if those are popping, or for example, if the clan castle is coming out, all of those are things which are really important sounds, and you should really know that those things are happening. So it is already giving you a nice advantage. The next thing as well, if healers are dying, like, okay, I just heard another black mine connecting, maybe another healer just died, and I need to be careful with my power overall. And that's always something which is really helpful. But let's combine all of those settings which we have learned today and what the optimal settings are. First thing, screen shake. Turn it off, it's horrible otherwise, okay? Second thing, automatically the hero abilities. Activate them. If your hero is about to die and you have not paid attention, it is a nice possibility of saving that hero ability. It might be sometimes too late and the hero is still dying, but in most cases you will have the hero ability still happen. So it's a huge bonus. Next thing, well, we have the scroll bar. As I said, if you're a tablet user, you should use the double deployment bar just based on using the optimal settings. If you don't like it, feel free to not use it, but overall, as I said, you're just having more advantages with not having to scroll. Next thing then, with the size of those icons, make it dependent on your hand and how big your fingers are. And then the last thing is turn the music of the game off and then the game sounds on. This is really giving you the possibilities and option of hearing every single thing in the game, which is important and which can sometimes save you an attack. And that's pretty much it. I hope those tips were helpful for you, those explanations as well. Let me know if you did something not know before. And I think on this one, we're getting this playstyle right on the buzzer. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys back tomorrow. Until then, and bye-bye.